If you're in your 20s and you often feel as lost as I do, but wish you could get some sense of direction in your life, well, I've compiled the ultimate 20s checklist for you to follow that will set you up for success for the rest of your life. And like I stated in my previous video, it's going to be broken down into 5 main categories spread across 5 videos, which is finances, career, physical health, mental health, and personal. And this might not include everything that you should do, it's just everything that I've done and have been practicing for years. But if there is anything you think I've missed, please put it down in the comment section below. And with that, let's move on to number 2, which is career. Starting off, when you get in your early 20s or even your teenage years, you're gonna wanna pick a baseline industry. That doesn't necessarily mean you need to have a career decided on, but you should have an idea of what industry you at least want to work in. Because frankly, it's a lot easier to move careers and job positions when you stay within that same industry. It's a lot harder to go from being a mechanic to being a nurse to working in banking. You'd essentially have to restart your career every time you made a job position move. But choosing one main industry or job specialization is going to allow room for any life or goal changes that you have in the future. And you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into one career path, because honestly, you may end up hating that career path in the future. So having the mindset of choosing an industry instead of an exact career will allow yourself more flexibility as you get older. Don't just assume you're going to want to be an accountant your whole life. Approach choosing your accountancy career like this. Choose business as your general basis as what you want to work in, with your main focus being accountancy. Because picking your career at 18 or 20 or even 25 is very scary, and you may eventually find out that you actually picked incorrectly. So for picking a baseline career, there's so many that you can choose from, but with how everything is currently going in the economy, there's a few that I would personally recommend. The first one being business, which includes things like accounting, finance, HR, marketing. You go into healthcare, which includes nursing, health admin, or doctor routes. You could also do skilled trades like electrician, HVAC, plumbing, or welding. Engineering, but specifically in regards to energy or infrastructure. Supply chain operations and logistics could work. Data analytics is very popular nowadays. Or you could go 2 of the more riskier routes that have high risk, high reward, which is content and media or sales. Now, in my personal unprofessional opinion, you can choose whatever industry you want to work in, but there are some that have extremely high barriers to entry, unaffordable schooling costs, or just simply have a horrible return on investment when it comes to salary. So if you want to be able to afford to live a decent life in today's economy, especially if you're a man who wants to be able to provide for their family, these are the career fields that I would personally suggest that you steer away from. The first one being retail and food service. Unless you plan on climbing the corporate ladder at these jobs and getting promoted to management or working your way up to higher net worth customers, I'd simply suggest staying away from a job that any 16-year-old can get. Next, I would stay away from traditional media and journalism. That field has essentially become oversaturated, and the work to the amount of pay you receive is extremely unbalanced. Next, I would say the arts. Acting, music, art, fashion design. If it's a side hustle, that's fine, but do not use this as your main career path. You know the odds are going to be stacked against you. Next, I would say academia and teaching. We all know that teachers don't get paid enough in just about every single state, and the ROI for being a college professor for about 90% of the fields is just not worth it. And lastly, I would stay away from social work. Social work is one of those categories where it's great and it's very much needed, but like a teacher, you will be forced to live a very modest life if you choose this career path. Now, after you've picked a baseline industry, it's time to research for ways of how to get there. Whether that's going to a full-time 4-year university, finding a community college near you, or enrolling in courses online, decide on what the best route is for you and get after it. And side note, if you're really feeling lost in life and really just don't know what to do and have literally just zero sense of direction of what you want to do, and if you're able to, I would highly recommend joining the military. Sure, being in the military might be scary, but really only a minority of the people that have served in the military have ever been to a country where we're at war. And an even smaller amount of them have ever actually faced face-to-face combat. So that's just a thought. Even if you were to hate it, you still get free college, access to the VA loan, and invaluable skills that you'll carry with you the rest of your life. But now onto the second thing you need to do in your 20s, which is build a LinkedIn profile. So once you've decided what route and what industry you plan on taking, you need to build a LinkedIn profile that's going to represent that. It's relatively simple to set up, and it works just like every other social media site like Facebook or Instagram. You just want to make sure that everything that you have on your page is strictly professional. Just think of LinkedIn as your dating profile, but for businesses and recruiters. And I say this now because I've talked to multiple recruiters, and it's almost seen as a requirement now that you need to have a LinkedIn profile. But once you have an account, there are a few things you're going to need to do. First is have a clean headshot for your profile picture. That means no pictures where you're in a group photo and you just decide to crop everybody that's beside you. So no weddings, no funerals, and no quinceañeras. And make sure it's not an AI photo or some candid photo that you took at the park. Just use you and a blank wall or a nice distant background. And next you'll want a simple banner that gives the basic information about you. And next you'll want to fill out your about page and include information like your education and your experience. I essentially just copied my resume and kind of put it here. And then after that, you're also going to want to fill in your experience block and your education block. And then after you have that, start adding connections. In my opinion, LinkedIn is a safe ground, and it really doesn't matter who you connect with on there as long as you relatively know them. So I suggest going through your contacts and adding every single person you have in there that has a LinkedIn, along with any coworkers or classmates or exes that you have. Now, what comes with creating a LinkedIn profile also comes networking. Now, this doesn't necessarily strictly mean only on LinkedIn, but you do need to start building a network of recruiters and business professionals in your area, as well as within other industries. Because for one, recruiters are constantly moving jobs. A recruiter for McDonald's today could be a recruiter for your dream company in the future. So I suggest you build connections everywhere. And I know this is really spewed everywhere, all over the internet. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know. But they never tell you exactly how to do it. So I'm gonna give you a few things that you can actually do to help increase your network and meet more people. The first thing you can do is to go to free events that you find on Eventbrite. Next, you can also join organizations that align with your goals. Organizations like the Latin Chamber of Commerce or the Black Chamber of Commerce are perfect examples of things you can join. Thirdly, you wanna make sure you're never asking for favors. When you're meeting people, just focus on building a genuine connection at first. Fourth, you need to make sure you're talking to everyone. Don't just stigmatize somebody because they work in an industry that you have no idea or have no interest in. You never know when somebody will make a lateral move into your industry that you could help out, or maybe they could help you. And when adding people on LinkedIn that you sort of know or maybe don't know, look for windows of connection. Something like the same alma mater, same hometown, you used to work at the same company but at different times. Just anything that'll help you stand out better when it comes to introducing yourself. And what you may also find from networking is a good mentor, which is the next thing that I suggest you do in your 20s. Now, people always put a huge emphasis on finding a good mentor, but it's not necessarily needed. It's more of a want rather than a need. It just really depends on who you can find and who you actually build a true connection with and who you look up to. And when you first meet somebody that you want to be their mentor, do not just go up to them and ask, hey, will you be my mentor? Start a genuine conversation and just be curious and ask questions. A mentor shouldn't be someone who is telling you what to do all the time. They're really just there to be a guide for you when you have questions that no one else seems to have the answers to. And make sure they're somewhere where you want to be at in the future in most aspects. If you know a guy from work that's a hard charger, but he literally has 0 time left for his family because he's working 12-hour days, 6 days a week. Well, if being a hard worker on top of being a caring family man is your goal, this person honestly might not be the best mentor for you, because honestly, they're probably going to be more biased towards working instead of spending time with your family. So you should really pick someone that incorporates about 80 to 90% of your values and has the ideal life that you would like to have. And honestly, this may be very difficult to find at first. So don't pressure yourself into needing to find a mentor right away. Especially with the internet and places like YouTube and podcasts, you can most likely find a mentor online that you may not even be able to have direct connection with, but they may have the life you want and they may post videos and content that you can take advice from. Now, something else you should start doing in your 20s is building an accomplishments tracker. As you grow older and you start to complete more and more tasks and projects, it's very important that you keep track of all of that. Keep physical copies of any rewards you've received, any certificates you've earned, and any performance evaluations you've been given. Now, there's no way you're going to remember some project you did from 6 years ago, but it's important to keep documentation of it in case you need to use it in the future for anything like salary negotiations, job interviews, or promotions. And when you're also able to track down any numbers related to those tasks or projects, it'll help out even more when it's time to really express the impact you've made. Because at the end of the day, no one is going to care about your career more than you do. So you need to remember that, and remember to track every win you've ever had. But whenever you're due for any interview or job promotion, just go through this and remind yourself of everything that you've done. And just look for any examples that you can bring up in those conversations. And the next thing you should be doing in your 20s is stacking skills. It's great to be the best accountant at your firm or the best data analyst at your company, but you also need to learn how to stack skills on top of these expertise. Your 20s should be a time for you to learn as much as you can, but focusing on just one main area will often pigeonhole you into one area and will often lead to a glass ceiling at some point. If you're the best coder at your company, but you don't know how to communicate or even build a connection with someone, you will never be able to become the chief information officer at your company. And same goes for just about every career. If you have a background in IT and you realize that everybody within the IT department actually really has no clue how accountancy works, if you take the time to learn accounting basics to where you're able to understand what the needs and requirements are within an accounting meeting, you've just made yourself a whole lot harder to replace compared to all your buddies in IT who waste hours upon hours on meetings just to figure out what the accounting department wants. And my personal recommendation is to choose skills that you see a majority of others lacking in, just to give yourself even more of an advantage. If you work in HR and you realize all of your coworkers really have no idea what would make a good supply chain hire, learn supply chain so you can become a better resource to that department. Because once they know you and they know you understand their language, they'll be way more likely to come directly to you for any needs that they have, because they'll feel like you have a shared interest and knowledge with them. If you work in nursing, learn the ins and outs of the finance and health administration departments, just so you can figure out how everything works and you can cause less mistakes in the future. If you're working in the skilled trades like an electrician or a plumber, and you work for a small business and maybe you notice that your company doesn't have a social media presence, offer to create and manage their social media pages, where you can do quick how-tos, answer questions, or promote projects your company has recently completed. And my personal favorite is whenever a new software, a system, a technology is introduced, spend all of your time learning that new thing. If everyone's starting from zero, then the sooner you become an expert in that area, the more leverage you have when it comes to others asking you for help. And then people see and respect just how fast you are at the adoption of new technology. And what follows with skill stacking is to participate in extracurricular learning, especially if your company offers incentives for it. Thousands of companies like Chipotle, Walmart, PepsiCo work with other companies like Guild to provide access to colleges and courses to help you advance in your career in a multitude of different industries. Now, I am very much against going to school for the sake of going to school, but if getting your associates, bachelor's, or master's will allow you to advance in your career and help boost your salary, I'm all for it. But getting your degree just to say you have your degree and then not using it, and worse yet, going into debt for it, is a very stupid idea. Now, if you've received grants, or your company pays for it, or you just happen to have a buttload of money that you just want to splurge, I don't care what you study or where you go to study it. But for a majority of the population, that's not the case. So if you don't have those options and you still want to go get your degree with the least amount of debt as possible, I always personally suggest to go to a local community college and complete any courses that you can that will transfer to a 4-year institution. Then spend about a year or two at that community college completing all those courses and paying that cheaper tuition that they have to offer. Then once you've completed all those courses and you've maxed out your transfer credits that can apply, go to a 4-year public school within your state and then complete your last 2 years there. And I specifically say public school because public universities have a substantially smaller tuition cost than private universities do. In 2023, public school tuition was about $9,750 per year, with private school being around $38,420 per year, according to the National Center for Education Statistics. And I say in particularly in-state because the average out-of-state tuition of public schools was found to be about $28,300 per year that year. So that means your $40,000 degree has now turned into $113,000 or $152,000 just for going out of state or to a private university. Because you would think it'd be worth it, right? Because people who attend private colleges will always get better jobs, right? Wrong. Well, sort of. Typically, the highest earners will have went to a private university, but on average, private school and public school grads make about the same. And when you account for the average debt difference, the actual ROI is much higher for a public school student than it is for a private school student. But school isn't the only thing you need to get extracurricular learning. With the invention of ChatGPT, YouTube, podcasts, and free online courses like MIT courseware, just about anything you want to learn can be found and learned on the internet for free. And if those don't work for you, may I suggest going down to your local library and reading a good old-fashioned book maybe? Now, once you've started on everything that I've mentioned here, the last thing you need to focus on in your 20s is moving job positions every 2 to 3 years. Now, before all the unks and the old heads and the boomers start yelling at me and saying, this is what's wrong with this generation, they never know how to stay with a good company. I'm not saying you need to leave a company every 2 to 3 years. You just need to change your job every 2 to 3 years. Now, if you get a promotion, fantastic. Your clock resets. You might be on the same team with the same people, but you have a new position now. So cool. Good for you. But what also counts is moving to a new team within your department, or maybe joining a new team altogether. Now, obviously this will not happen your entire career, but if you're in your 20s and you're just starting out and you're not getting promoted consistently and getting more job responsibilities, you may actually need to leave the company for better opportunities. It's nothing personal. It's just business.
It's nothing personal, Jack. It's just good business.
And remember that no one's going to look out for your career more than you will. And so just to recap what we talked about, if you're in your 20s and you want to get your career to start off in the right direction, I suggest that you need to pick a baseline industry, build a LinkedIn profile, network with everyone, find a good mentor that you truly look up to, build an accomplishments tracker, skill stack, continue learning, and move job positions every 2 to 3 years. This is part 2 of the 5-part video series I'm going to be doing. And if you enjoyed this video, I do ask you guys, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can see when my next upload is. And if you want to see part 1 of this 5 video series, click right here. But until the next time I see you guys, peace.